Now the dust has somewhat settled. Joining us for his first international interview since all the commotion is Cook Islands Prime Minister Mark Brown. Kia ora, Prime Minister, and me taki atu paka for joining the Pacific again.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure to be on your show and also an opportunity to talk to you, but also talk to your listeners, to our people in Australia.
Firstly, the Joint Action Plan partnership with China. Why did you think this was an agreement the Cook Islands needed?
Well, I think we should take a step back and have a look at where we've come from and where we are today. So if we look back to 2001, when we signed our Joint Centenary Declaration with New Zealand, essentially that declaration says that the Cook Islands is a sovereign and independent nation in its engagements with its foreign policy. Since that time, we've developed formal diplomatic relations with a number of countries, and to date, 68 countries, in fact, including all of the biggest economies in the world. In the Americas, we have formal diplomatic relations with Canada, the USA, Mexico, Brazil, Argentina. In Europe with Germany, Italy, Spain, France, and others, and also in Asia with Japan, China, India, Korea, Indonesia, Philippines, numerous others. One of the things that really prompted us in terms of our formal diplomatic relations and engagements with other countries was in 2020 our graduation to high income status. What that meant was access to concessional financing for countries like us, to grant funding was no longer available. So we needed to build and develop relationships with other countries, with other development partners on an equal footing, on the basis of mutual interest and mutual benefit. So if we come to this year, 2025, our comprehensive strategic partnership with China was just another step in our international relations that we've been developing for the last 25 years. The comprehensive strategic partnership really is a framework for engagement now with China in areas that we've identified as priority development areas for the Cook Islands. It is something that we've done similar in 2022. We signed our partnership agreement with New Zealand, the Aotearoa agreement. Also in 2022, we signed our agreement with Australia, the Aotearoa agreement. Since that time in 2023, I've been the chairman of the forum, and the forum has signed regional agreements with a number of other countries over that period of time for areas of cooperation between countries like the USA, with Korea, with India, and with Japan. So this is just another step, if you like, in our engagement with our development partners that we wanted to work closely with. It was also something that we needed to do to diversify our development relationships with other countries and not to be too dependent on one development partner such as New Zealand. This is important for us, in particular, as a high-income country.
Do you think the Cook Islands people clearly understand what this agreement means for them? Now, they're concerned about putting the country further into debt, and what sort of commercial agreements might this open the door to?
Yeah, I think the Cook Islands, in terms of debt, the Cook Islands has probably one of the best debt profiles in the Pacific. So this agreement, there is no debt that we've entered into. There is no commitments that we've made in terms of projects. We're looking at things like trade, tourism, agriculture support, aquaculture support as well for seafood and seafood products, infrastructure development. For a country like ours, our National Infrastructure Investment Plan has an amount of up to $600 million required just for the Cook Islands to upgrade its infrastructure right across the board to be able to meet our development needs. Now, that is a huge sum of money that cannot be met by ourselves, either through our own income or through borrowing through the likes of the Asian Development Bank, or even through grant funding from the likes of New Zealand. What we see is China being able to complement what we have in place with traditional partners like New Zealand, like Australia, and others. So for us, it's a matter of being innovative. It's a matter of reaching out and seeing what opportunities there are for us to help us achieve our development priorities, and also to help us achieve the infrastructure needs that they're quite immense for a country like the Cook Islands with 15 islands, with the islands spread over great distances.
Now, New Zealand has said that it's reviewing the agreement. Have they told you what the outcome of this review is?
No, we're waiting for New Zealand to provide feedback on their review of the documents that have been signed. But like I pointed out to my counterparts, the New Zealand Prime Minister, the New Zealand Foreign Minister, there should be nothing in the strategic partnership that we've signed with China that should cause any surprises to anyone. I've been very clear that within this agreement, there are no arrangements for security that they were fearful of that might be contained in these agreements. We very much rely on our traditional security arrangements that are in place with our traditional partners of New Zealand and Australia.
Now, speaking of your counterpart, you also wrote a letter to New Zealand PM Chris Luxon. Why did you think you needed to do that?
Well, I think it was important to reach out to Prime Minister Luxon in light of events that had transpired, particularly through the media, in pushing a narrative of the Cook Islands government and myself as Prime Minister that I felt was not accurate. And it was pushed to the extent where the opposition took this as an opportunity to lodge a vote of no confidence against a duly elected government of the Cook Islands. He has responded back to me, and I will now take the opportunity in the next couple of weeks to re-engage again with the Prime Minister Luxon in light of how, again, as you said, the dust has settled on a number of things, and progress our discussions and look for a way forward so we don't have these misunderstandings anymore.
Now, do you think New Zealand wants to rewrite the declaration to give it more specific veto powers over foreign policy decisions the Cook Islands makes? You know, something similar to the Whalepili Union Australia has with Tuvalu.
The specific aspect of the Whalepili agreement with Australia and Tuvalu provides Australia with a veto over any security agreement that Tuvalu may enter into with another country. That is quite a sacrifice of its sovereignty in that regard. For the Cook Islands, I don't think we would be looking at a review of our arrangement that would see us winding back the clock. If there's anything, I would see a review of our arrangement which recognizes the fact that the Cook Islands, and not only is it one of the first countries to achieve high income status in the region, but is one that is well respected within the region for being able to have its own voice, for a country that does make its own choices, but one that recognizes the Pacific way of doing things.
Now, we know that you're supportive of exploring deep-sea mining. What's your response to critics who say that your government is placing profit ahead of people?
Our country has very high expectations of income that people need, of services that they demand in terms of health services, education services, and overall government services. All of these require a certain level of investment and a certain level of income. Currently, our tourism industry provides us with a level of income that allows us to do what we can do now. If we are wanting to do more, if we want to grow the economy, there is only a certain extent that our tourism can be able to grow out to without affecting and impacting negatively the very environment that makes our country attractive to people. So we're certainly not putting profit as the motivation for our country. The motivation here we have for our country is the benefit of our people.
Now, opposition there in Rarotonga saw hundreds of protests in February. One of their main concerns was your proposal for a Cook Islands to have its own passport rather than use New Zealand's. Now, that's shelved, you've said that, but is this temporary or is it possible to be revived further down the track?
Well, no, New Zealand has made it very clear that any attempts to have a Cook Island passport will directly impinge any Cook Islander who holds a New Zealand passport. So that matter is no longer on the table for us. But as Cook Islanders, we will certainly still look at a way to see how we can elevate and recognise our status as Cook Islanders.
You also faced a vote of no confidence. Now, how are you rebuilding the trust in the community?
I think the protest was built around misinformation and I guess bringing people along on the journey. So my job now is to make sure that we're very clear about what direction we're going, to be very clear and open and transparent to our people about what we are doing and what we are looking to be doing in the future. I mean, we're no strangers to opposition and to protests here in our country. Cook Islanders are very forward when it comes to putting their point of view across, and they will certainly make that known to whoever's the government of the day. So these are things that, as a government, we've taken on board. Certainly, I've taken on board and will make every effort to ensure that our people are better informed as we go forward.
Me te ke tupako Prime Minister for your time.
Me te ki mata.